the writing's on the wall for a lot of these teams.
That seems about right. So I got 2 wins for the Arizona Cardinals, but the first pick in the draft.
We're going to make it that much easier here by explaining why these 10 teams have 0 shot at qualifying for the 2023/24 NFL postseason. Arizona Cardinals. Newsflash, the Cardinals are a lot worse this year than they were in 2022. I mean, think about it. The 2022 squad had QB Kyler Murray for 11 games and Pro Bowl wideout DeAndre Hopkins for 9 games. The roster also featured J.J. Watt, Byron Murphy, and Zach Allen on defense, and another former Pro Bowl receiver in A.J. Green on offense. Well, only Murray remains. And the number 1 pick of the 2019 NFL Draft is going to miss significant time in 2023 recovering from surgery on his torn ACL. And sorry, but Colt McCoy is not saving the day. Not even sure Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or Josh Allen could do a whole lot with this roster right now. Look, you can't blame GM Monty Austinford for opting to stockpile additional selections rather than draft players who could help them win right now here in 2023. The Cardinals are a long ways away from contending after all. Arizona is the overwhelming frontrunner to win the first overall pick next year. That much is good news for the long-suffering fans. Green Bay Packers. Just think logically here for a minute. The Packers finished 8-9 a season ago with a 4-time MVP and Aaron Rodgers leading the offense. And now they're going from Rodgers to unproven 2020 first-rounder Jordan Love. We're not saying that Love will go down as a bust in Green Bay, but it is hard to envision him succeeding right off the bat. Green Bay watched top wideout Allen Lazard walk to free agency where he joined the New York Jets. They didn't add any notable names in free agency, and GM Brian Gutekunst had a questionable draft that saw Green Bay add 0 players who will likely make much of an impact here in 2023. The Packers' only real strength is their 2-headed monster at running back in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But realistically, how much can these two move the needle, especially now that defenses no longer have to account for Aaron Rodgers? Like last year, Green Bay is merely the 3rd best team in the NFC North. With questions on defense, at wideout, and especially at the game's most important position, we would be shocked if they somehow repeated last year's 8-win season, let alone make the playoffs. Los Angeles Rams. Part of us wants to think that a Sean McVay coached team could easily rebound from a disastrous Super Bowl defense and return to their usual form in 2023. But, it's awfully difficult to see. Even if Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald all stay healthy after all missing considerable time in 2022, where's the rest of the production coming from? The cap-strapped Rams let go of 2 All-Pros in cornerback Jalen Ramsey, traded to Miami, and linebacker Bobby Wagner, who was released before rejoining the Seattle Seahawks. The Rams still don't have a capable WR2 to complement Kupp. They don't have a clear-cut answer at running back. Rookie Steve Avila, taken in round 2, is the only notable addition to what was one of football's worst offensive lines a year ago. Stafford, entering his age 35 season, has his work cut out for him, and who knows how he'll perform coming back from a season-ending back injury. Did we mention that the Rams play in the same division as the Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers, and that they have the 9th hardest strength of schedule for 2023? Look, add it all up, and the Rams are destined to miss the playoffs in back-to-back years since 2015 and 2016, the last 2 seasons of the forgettable Jeff Fisher era. Washington Commanders. The Commanders finished 8-1 a year ago and just missed out on a playoff berth. Quite impressive, considering that each of their 3 NFC East rivals finished above 500 and all qualified for the postseason. But it is hard to envision Washington flirting with a 500 record and a playoff appearance again, given their QB situation. No, Taylor Heineke was not the long-term option at QB, but he did enough to at least give his club a chance. Now the Commanders are asking either 2022 5th-rounder Sam Howell or journeyman Jacoby Brissett to save the day behind center.
Not gonna happen! No, not gonna happen!
Washington has the 8th toughest strength of schedule for 2023. Having to play the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, and New York Giants twice apiece is just unfair for a team with Howell and Brissett atop their QB depth chart. Making matters even worse? Well, check out the Commanders' schedule. Their toughest games are all spread out, giving Ron Rivera's squad very little chance of finding breathing room and jumping ahead early. Yes, the Commanders had a top 5 defense in 2022, and they own a solid set of weapons in Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson. But you cannot realistically expect them to be a playoff contender with arguably football's worst quarterback depth chart. Commanders fans should be happy if their team wins 7 games in 2023. The playoffs are simply not gonna happen. Houston Texans. Make no mistake, the Texans are on the right track again with a franchise QB named CJ Stroud now in place. Trading up for Will Anderson Jr. at number 3 overall was another tidy order of business, giving this organization its first cornerstone piece on D since J.J. Watt. And we loved the hiring of DeMeco Ryans as head coach. His defensive genius, passion, and energy will be a breath of fresh air for a team that had 4 head coaches over its previous 3 years. But let's be real, Houston isn't anywhere close to contending in the stacked AFC just yet. With Houston trading away Brandon Cooks, Stroud does not have a proven WR1 to work with, and the Texans O-line is still a giant question mark outside of Laramie Tunsil. Anderson Jr., Jalen Petrie, Derek Stingley Jr., and free agent pickup Jimmy Ward round out a promising nucleus on defense, but the rest of the unit, linebacker in particular, leaves a lot to be desired. The Texans play in a division with the up-and-coming Jacksonville Jaguars, the always competitive Tennessee Titans, and an Indianapolis Colts team that could surprise many if Anthony Richardson comes as advertised. Look, give Houston 1 or 2 more painful years before they make the jump to playoff contention. 2023 will just be another year of growing pains and moral losses in H-Town. But again, the long-term outlook for this team is finally promising again. Chicago Bears. The Bears finished with football's worst record at 3-14 a year ago. Thanks, Lovie Smith, but there is way too much young talent in place here for them to be that bad again. Now, that does not mean that they'll make the playoffs, however. Justin Fields can only improve as a passer after recording over 1K rushing a year ago, especially with ex-Carolina Panthers star DJ Moore stepping in as the new WR1 here. Getting Tennessee offensive tackle Darnell Ryo at the number 10 pick was beautiful and all that, but hey, what about the rest of Chicago's woeful O-line? The front seven saw 3 new faces in Tremaine Edmonds, DeMarcus Walker, and TJ Edwards, who all arrived in free agency. Nice work there by the front office, but the Bears still have a long way to go here. Their defense was dead last in scoring a year ago, and it's gonna need time to gel. Fields will have to prove that he can actually win with his arm and not just his leg, and doing that is way easier said than done with this O-line. Aaron Rodgers may be gone, but the Bears remain the worst team in their division. They're miles behind the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions. The Packers at least have enough experienced veterans to avoid the basement. You really can't say the same about the Bears. Honestly, Chicago fans should be happy if their team wins 6 or more games. This team is still a while away from realistically competing for a playoff berth. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers were lucky to play in football's worst division a year ago. Even with the GOAT and Tom Brady captaining the offense, the Bucs barely limped out to an 8-9 finish and an NFC South division title. The party was short-lived, however, with the Bucs getting thrashed by the Cowboys in the wildcard round. Brady subsequently announced his second retirement, leaving the Bucs in an awful situation heading into 2023. Sorry, but Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask ain't leading this team anywhere in 2023.
It's not how I drew my career up by any means. If I was to tell you how it would go based on the plan, I wouldn't have said that I put on 3 different uniforms in the year 2022, but that's how it happens.
The Bucs have way too many aging veterans that should have been traded for future assets, but instead, Tampa will try to make a run at the game's worst division, even though they have the worst QB situation among the 4 NFC South clubs. Aside from the QB issues, Tampa has a vulnerable front seven, a mediocre secondary, a leaky O-line, and a rush game that only finished dead last a year ago. The Brady era was short and sweet, but Bucs fans need to brace themselves for another period of mediocrity. At least they have a real shot at winning the Caleb Williams draft sweepstakes. Tennessee Titans. The Titans had the AFC South seemingly wrapped up with a 7-3 record through 10 games. Instead, they inexplicably collapsed and lost their final 7 games, including a winner-go-home game to the rival Jaguars in Week 18. Tennessee could have commenced a rebuild by trading Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry in their contract years, but instead, they opted to stay the course and try to make another run with a weakened roster that lost Pro Bowl guard Taylor Lewan, pass rushing standout DeMarcus Walker, and lead receiver Robert Woods this offseason. Tannehill has hit his peak and cannot be asked to save the day again with Treylon Burks as his only impactful wideout. How much more can a 29-year-old Henry carry this offense? Look, the decline just should come any day now. The secondary is still a mess, and Jeffrey Simmons cannot be the only constant playmaker on the front seven. The Texans and Colts have their issues, no doubt, but those teams won't hand Tennessee a guaranteed 4 wins anymore. Consider the Jaguars a shoo-in to win the AFC South. You really think Tennessee will snag a wildcard spot over the many stacked and more rounded teams in the AFC? No chance. This is going to be a long year in Tennessee. Cleveland Browns. Now, this entry may surprise some given the amount of talent on the Browns roster, and as much as you may have enjoyed Deshaun Watson's lackluster play in year 1 with the Browns, his on-field production can only improve from here. Watson was rusty after being away from football for nearly 2 years, and he simply couldn't get the grasp of Kevin Stefanski's offense. Nonetheless, the Browns salvaged a 7-10 record despite an ugly 3-7 start. So, why are we giving the Browns zero chance of making the playoffs? Well, if they were in almost any other division, Stefanski's group wouldn't be on this list. The Browns simply are not going to compete with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals for AFC North supremacy. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have had their way with the Browns as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers are primed to break out in year 2 under Kenny Pickett. Even if Watson regains his star-like form, the Browns do not have the depth nor enough playmakers on D outside of Myles Garrett to do much of anything here. So, pencil them down for another losing season and a non-playoff berth. Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders went 6-11 a year ago with Derek Carr as their QB, with Josh Jacobs winning the rushing title, with Devontae Adams recording 1,516 receiving yards, which was a franchise single-season record. And now we're supposed to think that Jimmy Garoppolo, or whoever the hell starts at QB for the Raiders next year, will move the needle more than Carr? Yeah, newsflash, no. That is not happening. Adams won't be putting up those numbers again without Carr at QB, and Jacobs? Yeah, he is not repeating his career year. The Raiders didn't do much to address the many holes all over their defense, and to laugh at the Denver Broncos' 2022 failures all that you want, but they have nowhere to go but up with Sean Payton now calling the shots on offense. So the Raiders will be the worst team in their division by a country mile, and potentially the worst team in the AFC. The good news is, if they end up being as bad as they look on paper, the Silver and Black will easily secure one of the top QB prospects in the 2024 draft. So there's at least that. But what other NFL teams do you think have no chance at making the playoffs this year? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.